Damn.
Down with OTC.
Dude, are you down with OTC?
I'm down with OTC. I've been down with OTC since day one, Jeff. You know that.
Hell yeah. We're all down
Yeah.
with OTC. What is up, OTC community people?
Shout out to all the OTCers out there. So we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, Jeff, and somehow we got to jam pack it into a tight little period of time. But we're gonna get
Yeah,
there. We're gonna get it done. I think we're gonna get it done in a normal time. You want to just give people a sort of an overview
let's
of what we're gonna
say
jump into
a
here?
little bit of an overview today. We are going to be reviewing, let's see. I mean, there's so much to go over, but we talk a little bit about SEC securities, non-security when it comes to XRP, stable coins, a little bit about IPO regulation, and maybe a little bit more about crypto moon time.
Yeah, a little bit about moon time is what we got to talk about, and we're going to talk about an update to the how the UK is approaching this whole scenario, which I really like a lot. You
I
ready to
like
get
that.
going?
I'm ready. Hopefully everyone
Let's,
else is here also ready. So let's do it.
you guys ready? Let's hit it.
Let's go.
And now, the roundtable with Jeff and Chip on the chain.
Let's go.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Let's
So I
do
say let's
this.
go.
Let's go. Hey, man, quick shout out to everybody that's here with us. And if you guys, what's so cool, Chip, is that everybody that's here with us is from somewhere else, all over the world. And it's always great, people can just give a shout out, let us know
Shout it
where they're
out.
tuning in from. That'd be great. And number one in the chat today, Sean Campbell. Man, it's awesome to see you here. And he said, look forward to see this every day and appreciating what we do. That's awesome.
And we look forward to seeing you every day, every one of you. You.
We do.
So that's
Man,
good.
fantastic. And check this out. Oh,
Boom.
boom. There you go.
Mitho
Mitho,
Nelson.
what is going on, Mitho?
We didn't
Thank you
even
for that.
start yet. We didn't even start yet. I love that, man. That's
Oh,
fantastic.
we ran the opener and
We
did
ran
all that
17
stuff.
opens. Yeah, all
Yeah.
that stuff, right?
So we're
17
ready
opens.
to go. Ready to go.
Ready to go.
And oh, you know what? I was checking this out and I said, man, I wonder if wonder who's going to join us today. And then I said, you know what? I think I figured it out.
Bengals.
Come on, man, berserker.
Berserker. You've made it in the OTC community once you get your own little what's up, Eventually we'll have to have that for everyone and that'll be the whole show, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
From start to finish, everyone get a shout out for everybody.
We'll have one for Mitho. We'll have one for Al here. We'll have one from Frank out of Cleveland, Ohio. And my buddy Andrew Nation out of
Andrew Nation's
the
got
great
no
country
sound.
of Canada.
Turn up the volume. Turn up the volume.
Yeah, turn up your volume. We got sound, bro. Let me double check and see if we have sound here. I will double check.
We got sound. I think we got sound.
I think we
Otherwise, people would say, "Hey, you got no sound."
No, you're right. We do have sound because I just heard you say turn up the volume twice.
Turn up the volume twice.
So that's good. I seem to be on a little bit of a delay all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that was Andrew. Andrew Nation. Andrew, what is up? It's good to see you on. So, are we gonna have any interesting thought today? We're gonna try to get into it because it's so key to key into some of the things that we've talked about now for like 2 weeks, which is SEC v Ripple, and we always kind of dance around and we're hinting at the fact that, hey, by the way, other countries have already deemed XRP a non-security, and that's to me, it's a vital point because regardless of what happens in the U.S., other countries have already made a decision on it, and the growth of the space and it's interesting because a lot of people, keep connecting XRP with Ripple. And I think what we're seeing now is that even if something does happen with Ripple, XRP continues to exist. And there's a conflict, which we've talked about every single time we've been on, between trying to label XRP as security in the US versus what they're doing in the UK, what they're doing in Japan and elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they just got to get this suit going because we feel like it's already been going on for 3 years, It's only been 3 weeks, but it feels like it's been 3 years just because it's been such a lag time, right?
That's right.
On this
Going
whole
on
thing.
forever.
Ever.
We got West Coast Florida in here with us tonight, which is pretty cool.
Beautiful. We got Bangladesh in the town. Dubai, bro. We got Bryson from Dubai.
Dubai. What's going on over in Dubai? And Dubai's a great place. You ever been there?
I have not, no.
And Dubai is really crazy.
But I know people that have.
Yeah, man. So I went over to Dubai. You don't know what to anticipate. You don't know what to expect, but they have a great Irish pub over there. That's right next to their tennis center.
Who would have
really nice. Yeah, it's great. Going to take the trains. The train system's nice. It was a pleasure being over there.
That's sweet, man.
Anyhow, yeah. So, man, let's. What are we going to kick it off with tonight?
There's a lot of things we could jump into. I guess we should go into. Well, why don't we tackle this first thing here? I got this thing sitting up here.
All right.
I want to tackle this. This is the.
There we go.
Yeah, the Ripple. So this is a great article because it talks about the UK, their HM Treasury that's classified XRP as a token, not a security. And I was going through. We have the PDF too. Jeff and I were looking through that. It says while Ripple is facing a lawsuit from the SEC in the US over the classification of XRP as a security, the UK provided clarity. Did you hear that, SEC? Hello, SEC. Could you hear that? It provided clarity last week. They're already Johnny on the spot, Jeff. They're like all over this thing. So according to a report that was published on January 7th by the HM Treasury, the UK government's Department of Business and Finance, here's the news, drum roll please, XRP is not a securities token.
Oh, so what is that all about?
Isn't that fantastic? I mean, why don't we have any kind of regulatory bodies that move that quick over here? But I have to say that I really like the way they've classified it. So British Authority writes that the cryptocurrencies serve a variety of functions from trading digital collectibles to raising capital for new projects. At the same time, it also states there's no internationally agreed taxonomy or classification, even though most countries, Jeff, have their own regulation about it. And it talks about in 2019, the Financial Conduct Authority, which is the FCA, published their guidance on crypto assets. That's the one we bring up a lot about the three prongs and how it fit into it could fit into one of two things, either a utility token and or a cryptocurrency. And however, the XRP does not fall under a category in the HM Treasury. Rather, XRP belongs to the category of unregulated tokens, which can be further divided into utility tokens and exchange tokens. In this regard, the authority writes, exchange tokens are primarily used as a means of exchange. This includes widely known crypto assets such as Bitcoin, Ether, and XRP. So there you have it, Jeff.
All we need to know. That's all we have to know had we been over in the UK, which is awesome, because again, it's setting the tone globally. So if we read the statements out of Japan, Japan's basically saying something very similar. XRP is not a security. UK, not a security. So now it's going to fall, here on the U.S. Once again, we're waiting with bated breath to figure out exactly what is going to happen, and I think that it's tough sitting around and waiting. Everybody wants an answer right away. And there's a lot of other YouTubers out there that are always trying to dig in and trying to figure out, some secret sauce, that, there might be some hidden answer somewhere. But at this point, I think we need to wait. And we have to figure things out. Digital director over here, I don't know what he's responding to at what part, but he said it wasn't meant for retail investors. I'm not sure what part he was referring to in what regard, but yeah.
I don't know either, but I wanted to, just so you guys, we're not going to go through this whole PDF, but go through it here. So, but there's a document that I'll drop in the chat right now. You guys can pull up this PDF. This is really the whole entire ruling. We're not going to get into the whole thing, but I think it's some decent reading. Basically, so the current landscape, how they approach the policy, how they're expanding the regulatory perimeter, and then evidence on investment and wholesale use cases. So it goes through 5 chapters. It's pretty well written. just a little bit that I've looked at, but I love how they even set this up. Look at that's how everything should be set up, really bold, like punch you in the
Look how
face.
nice that is.
Isn't it
That's really
beautiful?
nice.
Oh, like for a
Laid out real
government
well.
document, it's laid out very well. You know, color
I like the
coded
color.
red.
Yeah, the color scheme is nice. It stands out, puts the important headlines, stands out at you right away, so you can grab it.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it. So it's like, what are the crypto assets?
Nice.
I didn't read the whole thing. I started, but it's very well written. It doesn't, you know, a lot of government documents drone on about stuff. This is actually simple language. You know, finally, the call for evidence, that's in chapter 4, seeks to stake. It's not written in this like legalese type stuff. So it's a nice document. But I dropped it in the chat. You guys should be able to pick that up in there and run with it. Did that drop? I think it dropped. Yeah. So anyway, I just want to drop that in case anybody had some curiosity and said, you know, I think I'm going to go and read that from cover to cover. And then they try to get through like the second page and they're like sleeping, which.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we got Garlic Brad said, well, I made it to the stream. Super happy. And Apex also made it over here. And then we've got Giuseppe. Now you know one more. Oh, he said he lived in Dubai for 1 year back in 2016. That's pretty cool.
Berserker's asking if anyone know about the Binance Xrp Halt. I knew that they're not going to, I don't know when they're halting it, but I do know that they are going to halt it. Interesting.
The secret Yeti sauce.
Secret Yeti sauce. You know what? Man, you know, so Jeff, you know, another thing I want to kind of venture into, since we got a bunch of people on here, you know, we talk a little bit about, Jeff and I have been, you know, we did our planning for 2021 and some of the things we wanted to accomplish with On the Chain. One of the things we came up with was the whole idea of, wouldn't it be great if we could all figure out a way to get together? And then Jeff reminded me that, well, man, there's a pandemic going. I was like, oh, that's right. We live in Florida. It's not happening here. But let's suppose it's happening someplace around the world. And then we started talking and said, well, wouldn't that be cool if we would do a virtual meetup? So Jeff and I were seeking out some kind of software that could really create a cool way for us to get together and meet. And Jeff and I found something pretty cool. So I don't know, Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about it? Just like
yeah, that's awesome, man. We're super excited about it. So we're going to be hosting the first ever virtual meetup, and the software is outstanding. It's like a trade show conference type of virtual software. I don't know if anyone on here has been to any of these virtual conferences, workshops that they do. So it's not like a Zoom thing or anything like that, but it allows us to have some speakers. It allows us to also get everybody together at tables. And the whole thing is kind of laid out in a really cool way where you're actually sitting at tables virtually. You can share your camera. You don't have to share your camera. You can share your mic. You can sit around and listen. But the key is that it's like a virtual meetup. So you get to, you know, hang out with people. And we're going to set it up where it'll be like a speed round in between the speakers that we bring in. So we're planning on hosting multiple sessions like this. The way we've laid it out, our ultimate goal here is to get to a point where we're going to do a larger workshop style with, you know, multiple speakers, topic driven, and all of that. The first one, our date right now is set for January 31st. We're going to have Crypto Eddie with us, and we're going to have some representatives from BitTrue. I'm not sure if Curtis Wing is able to make it, but we have a couple individuals already from BitTrue that said that they were going to be on, and we've reached out to have a few other people on, but our date is the 31st. It's going to be a lot of fun because really at the end of the day, it's really about the community. That's what we wanted to orchestrate, not, you know, to have everyone kind of engage, have an opportunity to sit and hang out for a little bit. Then we'll jump in session with a presenter, then come back, hang out a little bit. So we're orchestrating the whole thing, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be really, really cool. So we're fired up about that.
Yeah, and so the first one, just because of the software, you know, we're looking at, it's going to be limited to 500. So we'll be releasing more information about it, but we're still kind of doing some planning, putting it together. But what we have settled on is a date, and that is the 31st. In the U.S., that's a Sunday morning. It's 10 a.m. Eastern time. So we wanted to have it really early morning because we want to allow for people that are in other parts of the world. Maybe it's later, maybe it's 10, 12 hours later. So you could always join us later or earlier. So we try to make it so that people could join. If we had it later in the day, obviously it would preclude some people from joining, and we'll still have to figure out the time, but that's what we're looking at right now. So
yeah, it works out perfect because we get people from the West Coast, 7 a.m. That's doable. If you get 12 hours ahead, it's 10 o'clock at night, so, it can be 11 o'clock in certain parts of the world. But yeah, so we're excited about that. I think that's going to be really great for everyone. So here's something that came up. I don't know. There's a couple questions that are popping in here that I thought would be interesting. Ken Cohen over here says, question, will every current crypto need to prove themselves crypto compliant or otherwise be kicked off of the exchanges?
When you say crypto compliant, I mean, that's, when you say crypto compliant, I think it's more regular. It's more whether it complies with whichever host country is regulated or regulating that particular exchange. So I think what you're really getting at is the fact that will a digital asset have to sort of fit into some kind of a bucket? Like we only know that in the U.S. there's two. There's Bitcoin, and then there's the Ethereum. Those are the only two. Everything else is up. That's why this case, the SEC v. Ripple, is so important, because it could potentially have long-lasting ramifications. It goes way beyond XRP, right? Or I would say Ripple, because if they deem it a security, Jeff and I have said this before, we don't have any concerns about XRP as a digital asset because 90% of it is traded outside the US. And if Ripple, the company, goes away tomorrow, that's the real sort of a barometer of what classifies a digital asset. It's not dependent on Ripple. Ripple builds software that utilizes the asset XRP, but if Ripple goes away, it's still going to be there. So it is decentralized. And there's another topic, Jeff. I want to get your thoughts on this first, and then I kind of want to bring something else up that I think is going to be the next big thing.
All right.
Jeff, he's reading comments. That's the weird thing about doing a live stream. It's like the weird sort of the play between reading comments, because we don't want to miss your comments. We can't always put them up. Sometimes Jeff's on a roll.
I'm going over here. I'm like,
and I can't get them. But one of the things that I think is going to be really necessary is I think what's going to have to kind of make it into the mainstream at some point, because I'm seeing rumblings of stuff. I'm hearing a lot of stuff out of Europe and other countries, is big tech. Big tech has to become decentralized, because if they can go ahead and take out a leader of one of the most powerful countries in the world, then they can take out you for whatever reason. We go on today and say, it was a hot day. I stopped by the ice cream shop and I had some vanilla ice cream. Boom, vanilla ice cream. Not part of the groupthink. Sorry.
Yeah, man. It's really dangerous. I think it's a huge overreach by big tech. I think they've waited in an area that it's a slippery slope that there's no coming back for them. I'm really interested to see what the stock market's going to look like for Twitter tomorrow. I'm really concerned, because you can't get into a point where you're shutting down people's. Granted, everybody's there at their win, right? It's a private company. They can do what they want, but it's a very, very dangerous slope for everywhere in the world. I mean, this is stuff that we expect to see out of China, out of North Korea, out of other places like that. But it's the reason why I think it's so critical to bring it up is because what is the response in the blockchain community going to be? And that's what, I would like to see happen, because, I've been having multiple conversations, even about, voting in general, as we get around the world, and you go around the world, and that's always a big concern. How do you get, voting into the hands of the people to make sure everybody can vote? No, it just shouldn't matter where you are, when you are. But if everybody had one vote, one person, one vote, and it was managed through the blockchain, the blockchain is handling logistics. It can handle so much, and full transparency. I think, that's the direction that we're going in. Yesterday, I talked a lot about the old guard. The old guard in the banking space, money space. Right now we're seeing a little bit of a pushback, resistance from the old guard. You've got the old guard, which is Swift. You've got the old guard, which are the banks. You have the old guard, which even some of the old guard, which would be Microsoft and Apple and all those guys, that are resistant to an extent of allowing some new people to come in and replace them. But there's a little bit of tension going on, but it's inevitable. I think, I think they're going to gobble them up. They have no choice but to get actively involved.
Well, it's like, and I say, don't make it about the person, like, hate, that's not what the conversation. The conversation's about decentralization, and how decentralization is really like what Jeff talks about. The old guard, they do not want it, right? They want total control, and this is why you have all this chatter about the CBDCs, right? Because it's something they're going to go and take, and they're going to put it on their own private blockchain because they don't want transparency. So they're kind of taking something that's decentralized and the idea of the promise of blockchain, and internalizing it and changing it into something totally different. And these central bank digital currencies, or the CBDCs, what they're going to end up doing is having total control. And that's why I say, like, at some point we're going to want to decentralize a lot of stuff, because if somebody can choose to say, like, well, we just don't like you. Well, what is it? You didn't like that I said it was vanilla ice cream? Yeah, we're chocolate around here. Sorry. It's a private company, and nothing against vanilla ice cream, but that's it. That's just the way it is. And, I'm using something ridiculous, but it doesn't matter what it is. The bottom line is that if there's going to be anything to the point of where you're going to be able to do that, it's going to be a bummer. I wanted to take this question off of Twitter. This is Jayden with a whole bunch of stuff after his name or her name. Says, do XRP holders get dividends from the past 10 plus years if declared securities?
Well, yeah, I think that's not even if it is a security, it's not. They're saying that they sold XRP as an unregistered security, so it doesn't make it a security. It's an unregistered. They'd have to go through a process, and even if it passed, that doesn't mean that. Again, this is. I think there's a major conflict. I don't know how they overcome this. If the SEC, again, states that XRP is a security in the US, Chip just read, it's not in the UK, it's not in Japan, it's not in a lot of other countries. So can something be a security in one country and not in other countries? And can you can you declare something a security when others that are comparable to it aren't? Ethereum, Bitcoin, I mean, there's so much turmoil, but a lot of that still has a little bit to do with the misunderstanding. But to that question, even if, let's say in some crazy world, let's say it was a security, that doesn't mean that it pays dividends. So not every stock has dividends. There's dividend bearing stocks, and there's stocks that pay no dividends. So I know it's kind of a roundabout way to answer that question, but as it stands right now, it's not a security at this point. The SEC has their case against Ripple. We'll see what the outcome is. We haven't even heard a response yet from Ripple, so we're really waiting on that. That should be in a few weeks. But regardless, even if they deem it is, that doesn't mean that what we hold would then be a stock, because it isn't. And it won't, and most likely it won't be converted as a stock, as a share of Ripple, the company, because XRP exists independent of Ripple. I think that's like the biggest part of it, is that, it's independent. If Ripple closed their doors tomorrow, the XRP ledger continues to exist.
That's exactly right. But it's a good question, though. I mean, it's good. It's a good question to ask. I want to go to this one here. Giuseppe Accardo, he said, amazing news from the UK. Hope this paves the way for the rest of the world, including the US. Apart from that, what reason do you guys think there is behind Ripple moving 520 million XRP among their wallets? Who knows? I mean, it could be anything. And are we 100% convinced that they're their wallets? And if they move them from wallet to wallet, it could be an accounting issue. It could be a lot of things. It's hard to speculate on something like that when we don't know enough about it. I mean, for me, I can't. It's hard to speculate. We could say, well, they could be this or it could be that. But if they're moving it amongst their wallet, that's indeed what has happened. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to guess what that might be.
And Funky Fresh, says, don't forget that Ripple has always worked with the regulators right from the beginning, and they had to work with the regulators. Exactly. That's what, regardless of what people say, to do what they're doing, which is bringing a software solution built on the blockchain to the banking space and to introduce ODL, they had to work with the regulators because there's a lot of baked in KYC and AML type stuff that has to be happening. Even with the banks, even with the movement of money, there's all these variables that still need to happen. And the ODL is a game-changing solution. Really, there's nobody else out there from a that has offered any kind of settlement solution at this point. Well, R3 is trying to put some type of settlement solutions together, but to this level, it's interesting. I think there's more to it. Definitely more to it.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. Who really knows? And then something else I wanted to put up. I saw Kim.com had, he has his own Kim.im project, which is a decentralized project. And I guess he got his domain back because I guess he forgot to pay the ups on it for the next year. So someone squatted and grabbed it anyway. So I put this one up. Kim.com says, hey, I'm here with officially joining the effort to make Bitcoin Cash the leading electronic cash solution in the world. I will help to accelerate the use of BCH with real world and online vendors to increase the user base. I know how to do this. Join me. Bitcoin Cash. And I tweeted out just like, well, good luck with that. Just like anything. David XRP, surprised a laugh. Said, Alan chimes in and says, hey, I had to use it last week. Took 4 hours from start to finish for it to complete a move. It's a Model T Ford. And then I saw Kim put this up here. He goes, how did the cryptoverse get so toxic? It doesn't matter which crypto leads in the future. What matters is the idea of crypto finds mass acceptance so all humanity can benefit. The crypto community should work together on that common goal, respect each other, crypto. I said good luck because, I could be potentially an uphill battle, but I wasn't like saying it in a facetious way. But man, did he get hammered.
What happened to his platform?
He's still working
on it. Is that the one
Jeff.
you're saying that he lost his website?
Yeah,
that's when he lost his domain on.
Exactly. Well, I did review his tweets here. Like I will show. Let me see. I'll pull up his.
He had the white paper. He had everything going, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah, he said Roger Ver. He said in this other tweet here that Roger Ver is I guess invested in it of some kind. I'm trying to find a tweet here, but let's see if I can find it. Here it is, right here. Yeah. So he talks about it right here. And let me pull it up so we can look at it. He says, I'm a friend of Roger Ver, and he's also an investor in Kim, which is K.im. We share the vision of bringing crypto to the masses equals financial freedom for the people in business. And we share that same vision. My family, friends, and partners will benefit from the rise of Bitcoin Cash. So can you. So, that's kind of, I guess, what he's choosing. So this is his website, the ultimate content monetization system. At one point it looked like he was going to release his own. So I'm wondering if like his crypto of choice, instead of him releasing his own token, because there's a lot, obviously he's in New Zealand, so who knows what the regulatory body is. And let's just say he's kind of gotten a little bit in trouble with the law. They've been trying to extradite him since that whole thing went down 8-10 years ago. And so I don't know, maybe it looks like he's making somewhat of a pivot. Be cool to maybe ask him or find out exactly what he's doing. But I know when I originally read the white paper, see, like this is the roadmap here. Looks like Bitcoin integration. I knew they're integrating Bitcoin, Lightning. So it sounds to me like BCH is going to become part of that vision along with Bitcoin. And they're going to launch it now because I guess there was a little bit of step. It was supposed to launch, I think, Q4 of 2020, but now they're launching Q4 2021. So it's been pushed back a little bit. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Here's an interesting comment from Garlic Bread. Garlic Bread.
Always cracks me up, man.
Bread
Garlic House.
Garlic Toast. Garlic House. Garling House. Ripple's made connections with the entirety of India's banking system. They've worked their butts off worldwide and will either get settlement or win the case. I mean, if there's any company that has really put it out there, obviously time will tell. We'll see how it all pans out, but as we analyze it, it just seems like, from almost day one, they've been very transparent about their entire process. That's about it. Simon, I assume that you're talking about this, but he said, why are we sticking up for them without question? I won't say we're sticking up for it. We're just kind of analyzing, where it stands at this point.
Who are we sticking up for?
I don't know. I'm just assuming that's what he was asking. It might be completely something separate over here. I just grabbed that as it was kind of going. I don't know. But so to this point, there's been so much going on. We talked about MicroStrategy a lot. MicroStrategy, they've bought so much Bitcoin. It's amazing. Who else out there has bought $1 billion worth of Bitcoin? I mean, that's amazing. And his billion that he bought, for MicroStrategy is probably worth about $2.5 billion at this point. And the one thing that, we kind of talk about and we say, hey, you know what? There's others that are trying to get a stake in this, right? So we saw Mass Mutual, which is a big name in insurance. Obviously, anyone in the US, Mass Mutual, they bought $100 million worth of Bitcoin. That's a big name move. But beyond that, Chip, Morgan Stanley has boosted their stake as well in Bitcoin. And the way they did that was by boosting their stake in MicroStrategy.
Right. Amazing, right? I mean, so you talk about Mass Mutual, that they actually run a 401k for me, right? And they bought all this Bitcoin, but do they allow me to put any of my 401k money in that?
I don't think
the answer,
so.
Jeff, is no, they don't. They don't. And you call them up and you ask them a question, and it's almost like you said, hey, I just landed on the moon. Which way do I go to the nearest pub? They're completely clueless over there. Tried 3 different reps. Nobody knew a thing about it. They're like, why would we buy Bitcoin? Well, geez, I don't know. But why wouldn't you offer it? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's nutters. Hey, there's another good question I wanted to hit. By the way, did you know this, Jeff? Did you know people call Berserker Zerk? They call him Zerk. They call him Zerk. That's what I want to go to Channing's. Channing Smithson says, Flare just put on Litecoin, next stop, Tesla stock, and derivatives. You're right about that. I mean, they're opening it up, and I'll tell you what, Flare is emerging as a major big deal in the DeFi space. And, I reached out to Litecoin Lisa when I heard that because, we watch her streams and stuff and participated. And thought it might be good for her to maybe even bring her on, see what her thoughts are. And she said, yeah, she was planning on, she had talked about that in a stream the other day, but she answered my direct message on Twitter. But it's always good to see other communities and thought leaders from that community and what they think about it. And she was super jazzed about it. She's like, it's awesome. Like, she's super excited because now you're bringing Litecoin in the DeFi space. And like what Channing's getting at here is the fact that what's next? What is potentially next on that? Stocks, derivatives. I mean, a lot of things are going to be possible. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it would have to be more of it's a little bit off the real principle of what Flare is building with the Spark token and the whole smart contract. But again, it could potentially come to play. We'll see.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that they're doing that airdrop on LTC at some point in next year, either this year, end of the year, next year, whatever their statement was. Yeah, at some point. But hey, that's interesting, right? I mean, they keep doing an airdrop on people's holdings. So if they're going to incorporate it, there's so much further that they can go. Like, the way we've identified with Ethereum, they're stuck. It's ETH. That's it. But obviously there's a lot. The ERC20 tokens, interesting. Yeah, enough. But yeah, can Flare is their next stop Bitcoin, and that could very well be. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Look, Jeff, somebody's calling you Nostradamus. No, I don't know. That's a comment in there.
Nostradamus.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, he got everything right. I'm like, it's so cryptic. It says, yeah, but you see the bear, and then this means that, and everybody goes off on all that stuff. And you're like, okay, I guess he called some stuff.
I like this question right here because, I've tried to dig into this one a lot. Do you think there'll be restrictions on retail holders?
You have done some videos about that, Jeff. But the thing about it is that why would they restrict? Before last week, I would say, well, why would they want to? But almost all bets are off this week. It's like world's gone a little bit nuts. Everything's gone topsy-turvy. And you're thinking about it because we've heard for a long time that XRP wasn't designed for you. It just wasn't. You know, you got in on it, you saw the utility way before maybe a lot of other people recognized it. But is it, I mean, if it's a true digital asset and it trades, you know, and it has value, I'm not sure. I mean, why would they, I guess they could restrict it if they wanted to, right? You could have a regulatory body restrict it, potentially.
Well, in the U.S., I mean, if they declare it a security, I think there could be some major issue where they could come along, you know, or can it be like gold where they say, hey, you can't hold it? Yeah, but then how are they gonna find out? You know, how are they gonna track it down? I guess with gold too. How are they gonna know you have gold? But gold's a little bit harder to you know hide than XRP. You know, are they gonna check all your they're gonna check all the ledgers and then try to trace it back to who owns those XRP wallets?
Yeah, I don't
know
know
how they're gonna do that. That's just
like
a little bit too invasive. Yeah. I mean, they can make statements where, you know, you can't hold it, you can't get it, you know, or you can't buy it in the US. There's no exchange in the US. But is there anything that said you can't buy it, you know, international? I mean, it's such a difficult situation to be in because there's no clarity. You know, if there was some clarity on it, I think maybe we'd be in a little bit better, you know, spot right now.
But don't you think it's a little embarrassing when you go before the judge and be like, okay, so 8 years have passed, they've been talking to you and the regulators, every move they're making, and then this is how you figure it out, you litigate. You know, it's just, it's not a good look, really. And you're like, well, and they start rattling all the countries off. Well, the UK and you know, Europe and Japan, and they start rattling off the countries. I want to read this question. XRP Welder 222R. Hey, who cares if Brad and Chris have sold some of their personal XRP holdings? Ripple and XRP is obviously not a scam. It would be historically successful regardless. Do your own research, buy XRP and HODL. You know, a lot of people in the community have talked a lot about this and like, oh, they scammed us, they scammed the company. Well, you know, if you received part of your compensation, whether you own a company or whether you work for a company, and part of it was in stock options, and you sold it, people would be like, I told you, you sold them, you know, or you're the CEO of a company. You know, when it's part of, when XRP was provided as part of compensation, that's like along with their salary, they can execute it or sell it anytime they want. I think a lot of people in the community have gotten that wrong and looked at that wrong. Oh, you see what they did? They sold it. Why would they sell an unregistered security and put us all in this hot water? No. Your aggression's towards the wrong person, if any, or the wrong entity, I should say. It's really about the SEC. By the way, the SEC knew when they were doing it. They reported it to them. You know, and this is something that goes back to David Schwartz saying it's amazing that you could get in so much trouble when you tell them, hey, we're doing this over here, we're moving this, we're making this happen, we're signing up this person, and then bam, they slap you with with this complaint and try to drag you into court.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, and it's you know, there's so much going on, and one of the things that happened recently has to do with listing of IPOs. Now, there's an interesting statement here, and it's something that, and it's very, you know, relevant because, you know, the SEC, you know, has to oversee the way even IPOs are managed. And some of the statements here, there's an article I found on CNBC. There's you know a lot of discussion about it all over the place. But here you have let's see, from Benchmark, Bill Gurley was saying that this change in direction in the direct listings approved by the SEC, he believes is going to end traditional IPOs. And so now they can do a direct listing, which allows individuals to buy in at the IPO. And I'm trying to find the one statement that I pulled out of this. There's this one quote, and I think it's so key because one of the things I've brought these parallels up so many times, and if you have to look at what the SEC does, if they do something good, they do something bad, the types of things they have to debate over. You know, so here we're talking about, before it could have been a debate over the ICOs, it could be a debate over whether or not a digital asset is a security or not. But here, even in the regular traditional stock space, there's still things that can be adjusted and changed. And the direct listing is one of them, because companies many times try to go around it and try to figure out how to raise funds. And so here, I didn't grab who the she is. I'd have to go back and look. But one of the things I always said is, when you buy an IPO, once it hits retail, it's already too late. And she said here, just think about all those examples when we see an IPO pop on the first day and there's shares allocated the night before and it gets priced at a certain level, right? Then the next day it's up 100% and people say, well, that's a great IPO. Look how wonderful and exciting that company is. And so, I'm looking at this, I'm like, holy cow, I've talked about this so many times. By the time it gets to the hands of the retail investor, it's already too late. You don't want to touch that IPO because it's already overinflated. And anybody that invested, institutional investors, they bought early, they got a discount. They're selling it to you at an inflated price point. They're making their money and bailing on it, letting the IPO, go up. And then we've seen multiple examples of that recently. Let it blow through the roof, and then it's going to fall back to reality. And it's happened with all of them. And so here it says, prices are, then the next day it's up 100%. People say, well, that's a great IPO. Look how wonderful, exciting that company is. It's not a great IPO if you, and this is the quote, if you were the one that sold shares the night before, because you could have gotten a much better price if everybody was participating in the offering. But I think there's so much more to it, because this is, SEC trying to adjust the traditional side, and now, we're trying to get them to understand and provide some sort of guidance on an asset they have very little understanding over, and so how,
Jeff, so you brought something up really important, right? So there's a reason that companies are going to direct listings, and you got to look at if somebody puts up a wall or makes it difficult or anything. And I know the SEC has chimed in on this before, but I wanted to show you this because the end of tradition. What? No thanks. So this goes on to talk about the end of traditional IPOs, Airbnb, you have GitLab, there's others that are considering direct listings as bank become to come around. And look at this quote here. Sorry about that. It just says venture capitalists and bankers say that almost every tech company is pursuing a public offering, considering a direct listing. It's a lot easier for them, easier going. GitLab announced plans to go public next year, also leaning towards this direct listing. And then because companies still can't raise cash in direct listings, many will choose IPOs, but with less restrictive lockup periods. So it's interesting that more of the tech companies, and I was reading it was boring, but I was reading just while you were talking about that, the SEC's weigh in on it, and they're like, well, one of the things they said, well, of course, the whole IPO scenario is less than perfect. Yeah, just about everything you do is less than perfect, okay? And maybe that's why it took them so long, because they're like, oh yeah, it's not perfect. To try to get something perfect, and it's like you go back to Facebook when they were coming up, and every major tech company at some point had this framed on their wall that said done is better than perfect. It was a matter of going ahead and committing stuff, right? You commit to stage first. That's when you make sure you test it all out, and then you go direct to production with it. You go to a production type of website. But guess what? Along the way, you missed stuff, and you fixed one thing, but it broke something else. You just got to put it out there. And the SEC took a different approach. Let's think about it for 8 years, and I know what we can do. We can just go litigate, right? We can just go after, the bad culprit. And so this is another thing that kind of grew out of a lot of people's frustration with doing a traditional IPO. And just right, I've waited. There's an IPO that I've been waiting for to go for 3 years. It finally went, and I was shocked that I was able to pick it up at the exact IPO price, because things elevate, then they settle back down. It elevated a little bit, came down. I grabbed some, and then skyrocketed 3x.
And then I grabbed some.
And then Jeff grabbed some. So there you go. But
I sold my Twitter. Thank God.
Good man, Jeff.
I sold that. Now we'll see where it goes tomorrow. But
right, you'll be thinking. Well, I think we can be certain that it's not going to go skyrocket tomorrow, right? I think we're that's a pretty safe bet at this point. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's.
It might. I don't know. We'll see. The market doesn't make any sense anyways. Good news, bad news.
Well, you sold it, so that could be an indicator.
That's
maybe
tomorrow's going to go to 100 and everyone's going to be happy. But the whole thing with that IPO is so key, because one of the statements, if they're talking about direct listing, what did Ripple do when they're selling, and obviously going through a direct listing, you have to go through, still register, with the SEC. You still have a process that you have to go through. But you can make an argument that even coming out with a digital asset with your token to raise money in a direct listing, that there's really no distinction at that point, because it could be a quasi methodology of a direct listing with a digital asset. There's something in that to where they can maybe build out from there. But one area there, and it looks like you have something to pull up there with Homer Simpson.
No, yeah, I forgot I was still sharing my screen there.
Oh,
that was smoke. That was Homer smoking a cigar. Homer. And who doesn't like Homer? I mean,
and look at that. He's burning some money, smoking a
no,
stogie.
this is a it's a good thread on this but we're not going to get into this now. But I definitely feel like I feel like there's a video coming out that I want to do on this whole thing. I want to break it down. It's really long, but it's really well done and executed. So I think it's some really good thought leadership around the subject.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's how it goes. That's how it all goes.
Yeah, so I want to go through some more questions. There was a bunch of questions in here. Here's Simon saying, if XRP is deemed the security, could still provide liquidity to stock exchanges because they got broker-dealer licenses. Yeah, I mean, yes, but I think we're going to have a big-time issue in the U.S., especially if it's declared a security, because the problem is that if it's, how do you deem it a security if it has other properties, right? And really the way the UK is looking at this, you have two regulatory bodies, which we shared earlier, both, even though they have a little bit of a difference of opinion, they both are still in the right sort of the book, right? They're in the different chapters, but they're right in there with the same thought process, where I think if you start going down the road of securities, I think what we're going to probably find out is that they may go back and say, well, at the time that the executives sold their personal, XRP, it was an unregistered security. You got to remember that FinCEN fined them $700,000. So at the point that might have happened, they go like, okay, well then that happened, and then so by the time you guys started clearing stuff up, and don't forget, there was a time where early days, because again, they didn't create the coin, OpenCoin was already created, they kind of just assumed it came into the and then they created a whole structure around it. But at the time, when FinCEN gave them the fine, and then FinCEN's auditing their books, and they're telling FinCEN everything they're going to do along the ways, it became a decentralized asset because the validators that they were running at the time, before I think probably the SEC even ran a validator, supposedly, I still don't have official verification on that. But at that time, it seems more likely that might be the way they go. So they slap a fine, saying that, okay, you did sell it at the time, but over time it did sort of get legs and become a digital asset that was decentralized, because now Ripple doesn't control anything about it anymore. Where maybe early days, it could be asserted that maybe they did. I don't know, Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's kind of tied up in this idea of an XRP stablecoin.
By the way, that's another thing that I had on my list of things here. This one popped up here.
Yeah.
This is you saw that with David Schwartz, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's kind of an interesting place to kind of round out the roundtable discussion, because when you read this piece, and he's hinted at stablecoins before, and he's laying out the case that here's what the OCC did. Oh, you closed the thing.
Oh, sorry, man.
But you can see he's laying out that case. There was a landmark decision allowing financial institutions to custody digital assets. And then he's making the case for the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger, is an open source technology. That's also part of the key element of why XRP is also then part of this decentralized solution. Obviously, being able to run all of this on validator nodes all over the world. But he's in this article, he's also making the case that you have Ripple and you have the XRP ledger that, and then you have the XRP digital asset. But to build stablecoins here. That this is like the next big, element that they're talking about. Financial institutions can use issued currencies to issue stablecoins on the XRP ledger. So now they're taking it a step further, and this goes back to the base principle that XRP, the XRPL, and even Ripple gravitated to the full technology of it, is made for institutions. It's made for moving institutional volumes. And so when you're talking about institutional volumes, you're talking about millions. That's how I interpret what he's talking about. Versus when you get into Stellar and the Stellar Foundation and XLM and all of that, that was the branch where they're focused a lot on retail. Although we see some of the CBDCs that are building on the Stellar Foundation platform. But this to me is really interesting, because what can be done, starting to issue stable coins on the XRPL. We know the XRPL is probably one of the most, it's really maybe one of the better blockchain solutions that are available right now, because everything that has baked into it. And I think people are kind of sleeping on that whole idea, that it's really an outstanding technology.
Well, you're right, Jeff. I mean, like, people talk about like the Lightning, let's create the Lightning Network. And the problem with Lightning Network is you have some stuff that's peer-to-peer. So there could be some regulators could step in and kind of say, if you're passing it from this person to this person to this person, there's some potential taxing issues, a taxing authority. It's kind of tricky business, because you're doing something different. You're doing a side chain to sort of deal with the shortcomings of the digital asset itself. But the XRPL, I mean, at some point they're going to have to go back in there and do some work, because the problem is it can only do 1,500 transactions a second. Where Visa, MasterCard, or a lot of these other bigger sort of, you're dealing with 75, 80,000 per second. So 1,500 a second sounds like a lot. Like, wow, that's a lot. Until it starts getting adoption, and then 1,500, because if you're going to build a Bitcoin like payment system, what Kim.com was talking about BCH, he's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. Well, the easiest thing to do is to send it to the XRPL, and then do your, it has interoperability functionality, and that's where you can get it done fast. And then it could trade off to something else, or go someplace else, or go to convert to fiat. That's the real use case for it. But everyone's sort of like trying to figure out some other thing, and there really isn't anything out there that really works as well. I mean, Lightning Network is a solution, but I'm not necessarily 100% sold it's the solution. It's a solution.
That's it, bridging the multi-asset future, which as the world is moving into, digital assets, digital money, whatever. This is a critical element. This is the bridge. This is the interoperability between everything. But hey, I just want to remind everyone again, we're going to start rolling out. We're putting together the registration part of the meetup that's going to take place January 31st. Once we get that, we'll have a register page where you can register for it. And we're also going to start fine-tuning our email list. We do have an email list. We also have a website. You guys go to onthechain.io. You can check out the website. We're also starting to post all of our daily live streams. We're uploading those on podcast, so you'll be able to access them. You can access them right now on pretty much any podcast platform like Spotify or Google or the Apple one. And so you can check it out over there. Check out On the Chain. But this meetup that we're going to be doing January 31st, stay tuned for more details on that. We'll start dropping that more over the course of this next week, give you guys more details on it. And, definitely look forward to that. We'll be back on tomorrow night again at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can check us out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we do a live stream at 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings, also Eastern Standard Time. Anything you want to add to that, Chip?
I do want to add something. Unfortunately, I cannot find it because that's just how things work. There's so many things on our Twitter feed, but I wanted to go ahead and share the actual place to go to find your favorite podcast place, so you can do that. I mean, I wanted to obviously thank everybody here, but when did I tweet that, Jeff? I thought I tweeted that yesterday. Oh, well, it's hard to see where it might be.
I don't know. There's some interesting questions here. We can pick up some of these questions tomorrow. I think it'd be really interesting. We could talk a little bit about more options to trade XRP if you can't use Coinbase at this point. But we can talk about more about that tomorrow as well. But I also want to just make sure that I don't know what to make sure of.
Well, make sure of this, Jeff, number one. So I did find it. So this is kind of cool because a lot of people say too, a lot of times they're in the car, they're trying to listen to something. They want something good. They want to, like, maybe they didn't hear us live. They want to be able to listen to one of our videos. This is how you can do it. I'm going to drop this in there. This link right here, what happens is I'll show you how to do this. So now you can take it with you. So if you're like in a Spotify, or if you have Apple Podcasts, or you have Google's whatever platform you listen to, this is it right here. And all you have to do is click this little subscribe button right here, and it'll pop up the different possibilities. So you have, if you like Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Acast, whatever it is, we're on every one of them. So some people prefer some over others, and this is where you do it. So you click that link, which I will drop in the feed. You can look at some of our past ones and play those. And this is just voice only. But again, sometimes unless you're listening to the pro version of YouTube, if you try to like do something else, like you're listening, but you're like, oh, I just quit out of the program. So you have to be on it the whole time. But sometimes maybe you want to like check your Twitter feed out, or you're doing other things, or you don't want to keep your app open the whole time. So this is another alternative. And I'll drop this right in here, guys. Go in there if you guys like listening to podcasts. If you don't, if you're on Android, I'm going to guess that Google's probably going to be your best bet. If you are on Apple, then I would say, but I personally, I've been Spotify since the first day one they arrived here in the U.S. I've just been an early adopter on that, and there it is right there. So go ahead, guys, click that. You can go ahead and check that out, and that's all I have, Jeff.
That's awesome. Hey, I just want to shout, just make sure Nguyen, the Omega, and there was one other comment here that I saw. Jason Dodd. If you guys are going to be on tomorrow night, bring your questions tomorrow night. Throw them in as soon as we get started, and we'll cover your questions tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Appreciate everyone being here. Want to give a special shout out to DNI, Digital Nomad Investor. What is up? He streams out of Thailand, and he's awesome. So
had a great stream this morning. Great stream.
Yeah. Great 4-hour stream. I got a lot done during that stream. It was fantastic. But anyhow, Chip, that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow night.
Guys, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same channel. Cheers.
Are you down